But I want to move on to the story now. Global research has revealed that young adults are living at home with their parents for longer periods of time. In 2020, the Pew Research Center reported that more than half of the young adults between the ages of 25 and 35 years old in the United States were living at home. Back home, Statistics South Africa reported that around 32.2% of households had more than one generation living under one roof. This has also been worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, with children staying at home longer. What does this mean for the finances of parents? For more on this, Warren Wilkinson, a certified financial planner at Consult by Momentum, joins me now. Warren, good afternoon. Thank you for your time. So it is neatly, as we tend to do with these things, Warren, neatly packaged away as boomerang kids. But actually it's a complex phenomenon, is it not? It's not merely a matter of people perhaps psychologically refusing or having some failure to launch, as it used to be called, but it now has to do with the realities, the financial realities that people are dealing with.
Absolutely, Tulisizwe, and thanks for having me. Can I also just say our thoughts and prayers go out to the KwaZulu-Natal families and communities as they deal with another devastating impact of the floods there. But yes, Tulisizwe, look, the challenge for parents broadly is that we've got a scenario where we've got a globally shrinking job market. We've got a world that is only so big. I saw a recent statistic where in 2032, 25% of the workforce in America is going to be out of a job because of the effects of artificial intelligence and automation. And so we've got a very, very real problem as parents to, first of all, make sure that our children are competitive in an increasingly competitive working environment. And this translates to a scenario where even though our children are able to go and get a graduate qualification, they still sit with a scenario where they really, really struggle to, as you say, launch themselves into this big world that is waiting for their contribution. And it is a real challenge for parents, definitely.
Yeah. I imagine that it must be particularly pronounced in this country. The figures we're working with a lot of the time are figures we are quoting from research done in the United States, but we have an understanding of the situation locally. I know that I quoted the figures from Stats SA that talked about, more than 32% of households having more than one generation living under one roof, which tells you the reality also given the situation with youth unemployment in this country.
Yes, absolutely. Look, there's some minimal studies in South Africa, but the reality is that we see that a lot more children are needing to fold into the provision from their parents to be able to just, sort of fund the normal cost of their own education. After a 4-year graduate degree, they're sitting with a potential loan of 350,000 Rand. And the cost of living, the cost of actually feeding and having clothes and laptops and cell phones and tuition, books, etc., can cost you in the region of over 100,000 Rand a year in addition to the tuition fees. And as you say, with the knock-on effect of COVID, we're sitting with a scenario where maybe one parent has lost their job or both parents have suffered a significant impact on their earning ability. So it puts a real stress not only on the parents' ability to fund their own retirement funding, but also to be able to provide for their child in a space where they are looking to get them a wonderful education so that they can be competitive in the workspace.
Yeah. Is there another way of looking at it as a parting shot, Warren, and feel free to throw in whatever tips and advice you may have for people to cope better under these circumstances. But I'd like you to start off by saying, by explaining whether there's not an alternative view that says, actually, this is pragmatic, it's realistic. The economy, not only globally, but in South Africa in particular, has been underperforming for a number of years, and the prognosis prognosis doesn't look great, and under such circumstances, it's what has made us, has stood us in good stead as a species, that we know when it's time to pull resources together and to hunker down and basically, work together and minimize whatever it is that threatens our livelihood and advance whatever it is that stands us in good stead.
Yes, to Lesizwe, exactly that. I think parents, especially South African parents, are enormously resourceful. We're a passionate nation. We find ways to win. We look at ways to make things work in the most difficult set of circumstances, and I take my hat off to every parent out there that is doing their very best to provide for their children. One of the things we see coming out of COVID is we see a lot of parents looking at a more minimalist type of lifestyle. In other words, they're cutting back on the things that are not necessary, focusing on their budget, making sure that they really focus on their needs as opposed to their wants. And we also see a lot of parents and families unclutchering their lives. I think we realized through COVID being shaken through that environment that there's a lot of stuff that we often spend our time and money on, where in fact that money could be put to work in a proper strategy to fund these educational requirements for our children to ensure that they can be competitive for the future of our country and for the sake of the next generation of leaders that we're looking to raise.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights here on eNCA. That's Warren Wilkinson, who is Certified Financial Planner at Consult by Momentum.